Absolutely nothing is going to be easy in the 9-game SEC era, but Missouri got about as lucky as it was going to get for 2026.
You are Locked On Mizzou, your daily podcast on the Missouri Tigers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, all you true sons and daughters, I'm John Miller, your Mizzou mafioso and the central scrutinizer of Missouri Tigers football and basketball. And when Missouri is a 40-plus point favorite in a ball game, we tend to, find other topics to talk to during the week. But I do have some definite goals that I want to see Missouri achieve against the Minutemen this week. Plus, I thought Eli Drinkwitz really had kind of the perfect response to what I thought was some pretty petty remarks from South Carolina coach Shane Beamer. Before I start the program, I do want to remind you today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So download the FanDuel app today. And yes, we've got not just 2026 here, but 27, 28, 29. Yeah, the whole 4-year cycle here has already been decided. Not the exact dates, but we do know who Missouri's opponents are going to be. And I'm just going to focus mostly, of course, on 2026 here. Of course, we're right in the middle of what could promise to be an excellent Missouri season this year. So in some ways, it feels a little silly to talk about 2026. But at the same time, I think this 2026 team will look fairly similar to what this team did this past season. Some exceptions to that, of course, but of course, notably, Beau Pribula will be back for his final season of eligibility in 2026. So, hey, first year with the new North End Zone complex. One thing that's beautiful about this, of course, 5 games on the road, you're going to have an unbalanced schedule every year. 5 at home, 4 on the road 1 year, and then flip it. The next year, it's going to be 5 on the road, 4 at home, that type of deal. So for me, I got to be honest, I'm pretty happy that in 2026, Missouri got 5 home games, first of all. And really, I like to focus on the road games. Most importantly, I feel like obviously Missouri's had a real home field advantage here in recent seasons, but anything in the SEC is going to be competitive. So, those road venues, you got to look at them. And to me, obviously in 2026, you get Arkansas, you get Ole Miss, you get Mississippi State, and Georgia. Obviously, Georgia, one of the elite programs in the entire country. Hardly anyone ever wins down in Athens. We'll see if Alabama can maybe pull it off this Saturday. The Tigers pulled it off in 2013, so they'll get their shot again. But what I'm really looking at here, Arkansas and Mississippi State. You can win those 2 games and at least get to 2-2 on the road. That gives you a great chance to go, 9-3 all of a sudden with these new 9-game SEC schedules. They're going to be a gauntlet for everyone. You've heard me the past couple seasons saying that 10 wins is the magic number to get in the playoff for Missouri. That number probably gets a little bit lower for just about everyone, especially in this conference moving forward. 9 games out of this schedule, plus you're including a road game at Kansas next year. Nothing easy about this schedule, but at the same time, again, those road games, I think 2-2 is possible. Certainly, I'm not going to put a cap on it or anything. I'm just trying to be realistic here when you don't even know exactly what any of these rosters are realistically going to look like in the transfer portal era. But those 5 home games next year, again, the debut of the Centennial Project there, the North End Zone Complex. You've got a couple of, 3 very familiar names from the old Big 12. You've got Oklahoma, Texas, and Texas A&M, and a couple of old SEC East foes in Florida and Kentucky as well. Now, the Florida Gators might well be looking for a coach. That's probably a new coach team next year is Florida. Same with Kentucky, by the way. Things are going real poorly for Mark Stoops right now. So a couple of real favorable matchups there, in my opinion. Oklahoma, Texas, and Texas A&M are obviously really, really good programs. Those are not going to be easy games by any stretch of the imagination. But guess what? With Beau Pribula and Ahmad Hardy and I believe Damon Wilson, a whole bunch of other really good players for Missouri, Donovan Olubade, there's a whole bunch of reasons to believe that Missouri is going to be one heck of a team again in 2026 too. So for the millionth time, not trying to make the case that this is an easy schedule by any means, but it probably fell about as favorably as it was going to for Missouri, especially, and I really want to emphasize this, especially in an important season for Missouri. I'd rather have this 5-game slate at home and this 4-game slate on the road than what Missouri's looking at in 2027. And for those of you watching on YouTube, I'll flip the graphic here to 2027. These graphics I did steal from the Missouri X feed, by the way. I think they'll be okay with that on this particular program. Hey, they've stolen my voice before, so we'll call it even. But anyway, the home games this next season in 2027 for Missouri: Arkansas, Auburn, Tennessee, and Vanderbilt. Seems pretty navigable, right? Not too shabby. Well, the road games, on the other hand, my goodness. You remember when I said the 2026 slate was relatively favorable? Well, the road slate in 2027 on paper is one of the biggest gauntlets I've ever seen in my life. Alabama, LSU, Oklahoma, South Carolina, and Texas A&M. You know, when Williams-Brice Stadium is looking like maybe the easiest road trip on paper, you've got quite a challenge ahead of you in 2027. Maybe this will be Matt Zoller's first season as a starting quarterback for Mizzou. Who knows? If so, have fun, bud. It's going to be a heck of a challenge. I will guarantee you that. Hopefully Missouri is up to it. And quickly here, I don't want to focus too much on many, many, many years into the future when we truly have no idea what Missouri or their opponents are going to look like. But quickly here, just 2028, we'll go with the home games: Georgia, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Oklahoma, and Texas A&M. Not exactly a lot of easy victories there. Finally, the road games: Arkansas, Florida, Kentucky, and Texas. And finally, close it out 2029. Of course, we'll have 4 home games this year: Alabama, Arkansas, LSU, and South Carolina. Road tilts: Auburn, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Texas A&M, Vanderbilt. On paper, that one maybe not quite as much of a gauntlet, but then again, 5 road games. It's just, again, there's nothing whatsoever is going to be easy in this conference. I can pretty much guarantee you that. And in 2 weeks, Missouri has a bye week, and unfortunately, homecoming feeling like a little bit of a bye week this week as well. So if you want more competitive games, well, be careful what you wish for, I guess, looking at the SEC schedule over the next 4 years. But with Missouri being about, I believe, a 42-point favorite or so, certainly 40-plus last time I looked over at FanDuel, well, there is still things for Missouri to accomplish in this ball game, in particular for Beau Pribula, in my opinion, and I'll get there in just a second. First, though, I got to tell you, Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move, and from footwork to breath work, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings this same intention to how we craft every model. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. And like our players, we do sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. And you know, sadly, most people cannot name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, investment properties, anything like that. And when you don't have the full picture, well, you're leaving money on the table. Fortunately, that's where Monarch Money comes in. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings the picture all together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or even on your smartphone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. And if you hate spreadsheets as much as I do, well, you don't need any of that. You can link all of your accounts and minutes and finally feel in control of your money without ever even touching a spreadsheet. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That is 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. By the way, one more quick thing on the schedule, and I will get to UMass. I thought Gabe DeArmond over at Power Mizzou, his column just after the release of the schedules here, I thought made a really good point. And if you're worried about maybe lowering the level of expectations here for wins, what makes a good quality season or even a college football playoff season, well, I thought Gabe brought up something good. He said, quote, in 1978, Missouri's non-conference schedule consisted of Alabama, Notre Dame, Ole Miss, and Illinois. The Tigers went 7-4 against that slate, 3-1 in the non-con with the only loss to the Crimson Tide, and then a 4-3 record in the Big Eight. That earned them a Liberty Bowl bid, back when a Liberty Bowl bid was a big deal too, against LSU. Missouri won that one too. So again, 78 there, an 8-4 season, but obviously not all 8-4 seasons were created equally, because every single person that I've ever talked to, my father, one of my best friends, Jason Jennings, his father, Jay, who went to Missouri at the time, just speak glowingly. Every hardcore Missouri fan I know who was alive and a big-time fan in 78 just speaks glowingly of that team and that season. And that was with 4 losses. This was an 8-4 season campaign. Well, against that schedule, that's nothing to turn your nose at whatsoever. So I'm just saying, I thought that was a perfect season really for Gabe to bring up to sort of contextualize what we might be seeing here in the coming years. And well, nobody was bored in 1978. I can promise you that. So anyway, in terms of boredom though, I hate to say it, there's a strong chance that it's going to be a boring football game on Saturday here, a boring homecoming if you're a Missouri fan. And quite frankly, let's hope that that's the case. And if I'm Missouri, I have a few goals in this game. First of all, the play that Beau Pribula threw an interception on. I've gone back and I've looked at that play, and I see what Beau Pribula saw. He definitely saw his player running with a couple steps on his man. So he thought, hey, he's open here. Well, because in my opinion, Pribula held on to the ball maybe a beat too long, but mostly he assumed that the flat running back was going to hold the flat defender. But that is not the case. Defenders are not robots. They can make their own decisions. This isn't a computer game. And that defender, at the very least, you've got out of the corner of your eyes, you're going to throw that ball. You got to check and make sure there is not a flat linebacker in that spot. But regardless of my take on it, what's more important is what Kirby Moore and Eli Drinkwitz thought about it, of course. And regardless, I would run that exact same play that Beau Pribula threw the interception on in this UMass game, perhaps even 2 or 3 different times, because I just want to get it out of his system. Whatever he did wrong there, again, I don't know the exact call, what exactly his reads are supposed to be. I can make a lot of assumptions on it, but regardless, let's just get that out of his system. Get it unstuck from his craw, if you will, if it even indeed is still stuck from there. The point is, learn from the mistake. At least that's my mentality, because, well, Missouri and Beau Pribula, I think, are going to be really good on play action more than likely the rest of the season. So let's just get that particular thing out of it from here on out. Also, against UMass, I think it's really important to keep Ahmad Hardy and Jamal Roberts, by the way, relatively fresh. I think this should be a big-time Marquise Davis and Brendan Haygood ball game, the 2 true freshman running backs for Missouri, who both showed quite a bit, by the way, in the Louisiana game, Davis in particular. don't get me wrong, I think Hardy and Roberts should both play. I want to see them prep for the game like they normally would, dress out, get some action in the first half. But hopefully Missouri has got this game well in hand, and maybe Ahmad Hardy can eclipse 100 yards for the fifth straight game in a Missouri uniform, and, well, maybe not all that many carries, and park him in the garage for the rest of the second half. And I really do feel similarly about, once again, Jamal Roberts too. I think that 1-2 punch is just so important for Missouri from here on out. And in somewhat surprising news, Eli Drinkwitz has announced that Missouri safety Caleb Flagg has decided to sit out the rest of the season and redshirt, and he is no longer going to be with the program. So it sounds like Caleb Flagg is going to be looking for other opportunities to play college football here in the future. Notably, Caleb did not play any defensive snaps in the ball game against South Carolina. He may or may not have played on special teams. I'm not really sure about that one. But again, no defensive snaps. He played 33 defensive snaps in total on the season. Just to give you some context there, that's right around where Dante McClellan and Cameron Keys, Dayton Hopkins, Elias Williams, true freshman type of players that have some talent, but, Caleb Flagg, more of a veteran type of presence there that came along with his brother Corey Flagg, by the way, who is no longer with the Tigers either. So there's some roster news for you there. And speaking of roster news, well, this one isn't about Missouri, but it does affect the Tigers. Oklahoma quarterback John Mateer is getting surgery on his right throwing hand. Going to be out for a few weeks, but should return this season, is expected to return this season, according to the Sooners. Well, Missouri plays in Norman on the second to last game of the season, so it sounds like John Mateer, there's a good chance he'll be back, at least according to what Oklahoma is saying. Maybe they're being optimistic here, but obviously this is a really important situation for everyone around the country to monitor. If you're a big college football fan, Oklahoma has looked like obviously one of the comeback teams in the country this year. In a way that was fairly predictable. The Sooners had horrific injury luck, especially at receiver, offensive line last season. Boy, far be it for me to feel bad for Oklahoma fans, but this is an absolutely brutal blow after last season. Hopefully Mateer does come back, honestly. I never root. Just like I felt like with Lenora Sellers, I'd much rather beat South Carolina with Lenora Sellers, and just as a football fan, to me, it's more fun to see teams, especially at quarterback, of course, but just to be as full strength as they possibly can. And by the way, well, Missouri certainly looked like they were at full strength in that run game defensively against South Carolina. Josiah Trotter, well, some of his teammates, I forget which one, I forgive me for not having this quote in front of me. I think it was Marquise Johnson, who basically said that, man, this guy is the box. He fills up the entire box by himself. That's what a good run defender he is. Well, Shane Beamer certainly took notice of how good Trotter was in the ball game as well, saying, yep, they paid him a lot of money, that kind of deal. It felt a little bit passive-aggressive, to say the least, from Shane Beamer once again. Well, I got to say, I thought our boy Eli Drinkwitz had the perfect response to Shane Beamer on this one. But you know what? First of all, I want to tell you the NFL season is, of course, in full swing, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Oh, the Kansas City Chiefs finally got a victory, finally got a cover as well. So we're back, baby. We are so back. And if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That is FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. So once again, Shane Beamer bringing up how much money Missouri paid Josiah Trotter in the transfer portal. Well, I wasn't bothered by those remarks so much as I was amused by them and kind of lost a little respect maybe for Shane Beamer just because I thought it was loser talk. But again, when you're the winner, and obviously Missouri didn't do anything wrong here in this situation, I just thought it was hilarious. And I thought on Tiger Talk this evening, well, last night, I should say, Eli Drinkwitz smiled in response to this and said, "Money well spent." I think that was actually my exact response following the game to that Shane Beamer comment on Twitter, in fact. And Mike Kelly pointed to Josiah Trotter in the crowd, by the way. Drinkwitz had a laugh at that and said, "Drinks are on him tonight since he has so much money." And I just thought that whole thing was the perfect response, especially you get to make fun of Shane Beamer a little bit. And by the way, show that you're absolutely not really bothered by this accusation whatsoever. In fact, just maybe take his face and rub his nose in the dirt a little bit. By the way, the Diet Coke must really have been flowing down at Harpo's during Tiger Talk. Eli Drinkwitz was on one for sure. On the schedule, by the way, when it was being talked about in 2026, all of these great teams being listed out, he said, quote, "You missed one. I think we host the Chiefs too in week 11. So obviously Drinkwitz having all kinds of fun here in his week heading into homecoming at 4-0. One thing I will say to close out the program here, I've been thinking about this a little bit here lately. Missouri obviously has started 4-0 here. Missouri started 4-0 in 2023 as well. And actually, I feel better about this Missouri team through 4 weeks in 2025 than I actually did about that Tiger team in 2023. Now, obviously, that doesn't mean that this team will be as good as that 23 team, but that 23 team, just in case you forgot, finished, depending on which poll you're looking at, which metrics, was about maybe 7, 8, 9 in the country, something like that. That was still in the 4-team playoff era. If this were the 12-team playoff era as it is now, I think it's pretty obvious Missouri easily would have been in the field. So, again, long way to go in this season. This is a different team in some ways than that 23 team for sure. There's definitely some big question marks in the back end of the Missouri secondary right now. We've got to clean some things up, but my goodness, an absolute wall of a run defense and an incredible two-headed rushing attack right now, and a quarterback that really looks like he's a quick decision maker and one heck of an athlete too, and a guy who's guiding this offense very, very well right now. I'm just telling you, remember back to week 2, Middle Tennessee, Missouri wins that game 23-19. I'm just telling you that it hasn't been perfect so far for Missouri in 2025 either. I think if I'm being honest, if I can put myself back in late September of that 2025 season, Missouri, has a competitive game with Memphis that it wins in St. Louis about that time. I was feeling good about the Tigers. I think I'm feeling even a little bit better than about Mizzou this start right now. How will it play out this back 2/3 of the season? Well, quite honestly, I cannot wait to find out. And I can't wait to do more podcasts as well, of course, and I'll certainly see and hear from all of you. Or, well, I did that wrong. You'll be seeing and hearing from me. That's how this relationship works. But no, seriously, by the way, if you do see me in person, don't be afraid. I'm actually a pretty nice guy, believe it or not. So you see me at Faroe Field, I'd love to say hi. There's no doubt about it. And by the way, if you need more college football action, the place to be is Fire TV. Yes, Locked On has a big presence over on Amazon's flagship device there. Catch college football kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. And until next time, I am John Miller. This has been Locked On Mizzou.